All right, guys, we're diving headfirst right into this mess because it's an absolute scandal. Now, let's not even sugarcoat it, guys. Kamala Harris's campaign, they burned through a whopping $1.5 billion trying to keep the White House blue.
Did y'all see this report that Vice President Kamala Harris paid Oprah Winfrey's production company nearly $2.5 million for her support during the campaign? And those reports said the Harris campaign shelled out $1 million. However, two sources told the New York Times that Winfrey's production company was actually paid closer to the $2.5 million. That number pales in comparison to the estimated $1.5 billion that Harris and the Democrats spent in their failed campaign to win the White House. Why would that piss me off? Why?
That's right, guys. $1.5 billion gone down the drain. And what do you have to show for it?
This is America. Donald Trump won the election. Rather convincingly, I might add. Now, I didn't vote for him, and I've been on the record stating that. I'm not backing up from that.
Not much, except for the latest eyebrow-raising bombshell involving none other than Oprah Winfrey and her production company. That's right, guys. Let me tell you something. This has exile to Hawaii written all over it, because if I were one of Kamala Harris's donors, I'd want her and her team shipped off, never to be seen again. But here's the deal, guys. Vice President Kamala Harris's campaign reportedly shelled out $2.5 million to Oprah Winfrey's production company for, we'll just call it support during the campaign. That's right, guys. Oprah, billionaire Oprah Winfrey got a big fat payday. Meanwhile, Democrats, they were begging everyone else for their hard-earned cash. And before you say, well, maybe it's not that big of a deal, consider this, guys. Earlier, reports claimed that it was only $1 million. But surprise. And if I remember correctly, it was Megyn Kelly who pointed out it was initially supposed to be $1 million. But the big surprise was that two sources told the New York Times that it was actually closer to $2.5 million. Are you kidding me? The New York Times, guys. Now, this isn't just bad optics. This is a complete slap in the face to every single donor who believed in Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and was serious about her winning, believe it or not. Remember, we are talking about Oprah, the same Oprah who's been tossing money at Democratic candidates for decades. You guys remember Cory Booker? Oprah donated. Stacey Abrams in Georgia? Oprah donated as well. Reports actually say Oprah gave her over $10 million. Barack Obama's historic 2008 run? Oh, Oprah Winfrey's influence reportedly netted him over 1 million votes in the Democratic primary alone. So what gives here? Why is Oprah Winfrey suddenly taking money from a campaign that she'd normally give to? Okay, think about the optics for a second. Why is Oprah Winfrey suddenly taking money from a campaign instead of giving it, right? I mean, she's the wealthy one. She's the philanthropic Oprah Winfrey, right? And don't forget, Oprah's been crystal clear about her support for Kamala Harris. Right before Election Day, she was out there fear-mongering on the campaign trail. Here's what she said word for word. If we don't show up tomorrow, it is entirely possible that we will not have the opportunity to ever cast a ballot again. And let me be clear. If you do not make sure that the people in your life can get to the polls, that is a mistake. Deciding not to decide is most definitely a vote to let the other people control your future. Does this sound familiar? That's not just campaigning. That's a scare tactic. She was trying to fearmonger, basically. Oprah Winfrey didn't want anybody on the fence. She wanted votes for Kamala Harris. So if she's already given her fervent, passionate support, why does her production company need $2.5 million? That's the real question. Why? Like what could possibly justify that kind of spending? And let's not pretend that this isn't part of a bigger pattern. Kamala Harris's campaign has been throwing money around like it grows on trees, guys. A $1.5 billion dumpster fire. And now we're finding out about this. Like, how did this just fly under the radar for so long, right? Meanwhile, Megyn Kelly's been calling out stuff like this for years, questioning where's the money going from these campaigns? And honestly, Megyn Kelly's not wrong. In fact, the whole situation reeks of desperation. Oprah Winfrey's decades-long reputation as a donor Somebody who gives money to candidates is now being overshadowed by this bizarre decision to take money. And for what? A production team? Was Oprah Winfrey herself not sold on Kamala Harris? Did she really need to be bought? Sure feels like it, because the kind of fiery passion that Oprah had for Obama or Abrams, it just wasn't there for Harris. And let's talk about the messaging, guys. Oprah Winfrey says that her production company had to be paid. But come on, she's worth billions of dollars. If she's so gung-ho about saving democracy from the evil Donald Trump, right? Then why not just donate the services? Why not just put her money where her mouth is, right? Instead, we're left with the optics of a campaign hemorrhaging cash and a billionaire quietly cashing a big fat check. Oh, and speaking of Trump, he must be doing the Trump dance right now.
In case you haven't seen Donald Trump's signature move, even though he's the one doing it right there, right now. At UFC 309 at Madison Square Garden this past weekend, one of, if not the greatest MMA fighter in history, John Bones Jones, did it after defeating Stipe Miocic in the third round there with Trump sitting ringside. They have no issue with players doing the signature dance of President-elect Donald Trump during their on-field celebrations. Players like Nick Bosa from the Niners, Raiders tight end Brock Bowers, and Titans receiver Calvin Ridley are just a few of the players that have mocked the president-elect's signature moves. Here's why I'm pissed off. That the NFL had to even issue a statement about it. Because celebrations usually don't warrant that. It doesn't require a response from the league. So why was it necessary this time? You know why? Because we got a bunch of people still living with their heads in the cloud, acting like they get to protest every little damn thing.
All this spending, all of this drama, all, Kamala Harris's team has done is essentially hand the opposition even more ammunition. Now, come on. Come January 20th, Donald Trump's going to be inaugurated as the 47th president of the United States. And this is the kind of nonsense that actually helped Donald Trump to win this thing. So appreciate it, Kamala. Appreciate it, Oprah. Yeah, this isn't just about Kamala Harris or Oprah. It's about the bigger picture. In fact, the Democrats spent billions of dollars and they pandered to the elite and they still managed to lose this thing, right? And so, when you start to kind of unravel where all the money went, scandals like this make it crystal clear why their campaign went up in flames.
This is Oprah Winfrey we talk about. What the hell is your production company doing getting anything from the Harris campaign? This is the same Oprah Winfrey that has donated to Cory Booker's campaign in the past. Remember Senator Carol Moseley Braun? Oprah Winfrey donated to her campaign when she was running for the U.S. Senate. Remember when Barack Obama won the presidency in 2008? They said at the time reportedly that Oprah Winfrey's impact equated to more than 1 million votes in his favor over Hillary Rodham Clinton in a Democratic primary. So here you are, donating to Democrats all over the place, which, by the way, Oprah Winfrey has done for decades. You giving money. You giving money. Think about this. Remember Stacey Abrams in Georgia? According to reports, Oprah Winfrey gave her over $10 million. I've got the news right in front of me. The donations highlighting the things that she has done for candidates she has supported. What's the theme here, ladies and gentlemen? Oprah is usually doling out money. But now your production company is getting a piece. Is it possible that you would take it because you had to be sold on supporting Kamala Harris?
Does it look bad for the vice president to go to Hawaii while DNC staffers are just wondering what they're going to do for work?
The vice president has taken time off to go spend time with her family. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think she deserves some time to be with her family and to have some downtime. She has worked very hard over the last 4 years, and her taking a couple of days to be with her family, good for her. Good for her. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.
Kamala Harris is back from her Hawaiian post-election exile, trying to explain to donors how she burned through $1.5 billion and still got steamrolled by Donald Trump.
The light of America's promise will burn bright as long as we never give up and we keep fighting. Look, this mission that we have, it takes hard work. But as you've heard me say many times, we like hard work. Hard work is good work. Hard work can be joyful work. And in doing our work, we will remain committed and intentional about building community.
She's back, folks, and as always, she has her trusty teleprompter ready to go. And what's odd is that she doesn't seem to be taking her loss that badly, although she does seem to be at least slightly inebriated. At least that's what it looks and sounds like. This kind of reminds me of a photo of hers that went viral just days after her loss of President-elect Donald Trump. It shows a seemingly wholesome photo of the vice president together with her two great nieces as they play a game. Now, I said seemingly wholesome because right behind one of the kids is a glass of white wine. Now, it's been rumored that Kamala Harris loves to get her drink on, something that her critics have attacked her with throughout the course of her presidential campaign, with some saying that she had a booze meltdown after losing so badly to Trump. Now, with her returning to the spotlight, it's notable that many still think that she has a problem with drinking. But even beyond drinking, now if you made almost $1.5 billion and you still ended up in the hole by $20 million, then yes, she has a huge problem. And this newly released video is not helping her with the drinking allegations. But here's a snippet of it.
I just have to remind you, don't you ever let anybody take your power from you. You have the same power that you did before November 5th. And you have the same purpose that you did. And you have the same ability to engage and inspire. So don't ever let anybody or any circumstance take your power from you.
For anybody who didn't notice, the vice president is reading off of a teleprompter. Her eyes just give it away. Now, there are those who believe that she's slurring her words a little bit as well. Also, she has the same repetitiveness that she had during her entire run. Now, what's surprising is that she acknowledges that she got so much money from her donors.
And you gave all that you could to support our campaign. Because of your efforts, get this, we raised an historic $1.4 billion, almost $1.5 billion from grassroots supporters alone, the most in presidential campaign history. Nearly 8 million donors contributed an average donation of about $56 to fuel our people-powered campaign. And understand that the work that we did included the work that so many of you here did, which is to talk to first-time voters. Many of you are first.
She doesn't even seem apologetic at all for spending so much of our money. That is, if you donated to her campaign. I, for one, did not. And you would think that after she hid for so long, she'd actually have prepared something from the heart. But she still seems like a robot with people behind the scenes giving her lines. She also looks a little bit tired for somebody who's taken such a long break and was on vacation in a $7.1 million home, or resort, or whatever the place was. It's really up to your imagination if you think that she's been drinking this whole time. All of these factors showed the entire country that she wasn't authentic. And this may have been the reason why she kept making the rules for her possible interview with Joe Rogan. But her campaign advisor, Stephanie Cutter, she had a completely different explanation as to why it didn't happen.
We wanted to do it. I hate to repeat this over and over, but it was a very short race with a limited number of days. And for a candidate to leave the battleground to go to Houston, which is a day off the playing field in the battleground, getting that timing right is really important. We had discussions with Joe Rogan's team. They were great. They wanted us to come on. We wanted to come on. We tried to get a date to make it work, and ultimately we just weren't able to find a date. We did go to Houston, and she gave a great speech at an amazing event.
The Beyonce event?
I'm going to call it Reproductive Freedom. And we were hoping to be able to fit it in around that, and ultimately weren't able to do it. As it turns out, that was the day that Trump was taping his Joe Rogan, which they had never confirmed to us. We kind of figured that out in the lead up to it. She was ready, willing to go on Joe Rogan. Would it have changed anything? It would have broken through, not because of the conversation with Joe Rogan, but because the fact that she was doing it. And that was really the benefit of it. Will she do it sometime in the future? Maybe. Who knows? But it didn't ultimately impact the outcome one way or the other.
Now, you gotta love how smug these people can be, right? Trump's Rogan podcast generated more than 50 million views. To say that her coming on wouldn't have changed the thing is downplaying that fact. And to argue that timing was an issue is kind of offensive. Trump was doing multiple rallies and interviews per day. He was going nonstop this entire race. But according to these people, it wasn't their fault that it didn't work with Joe Rogan, which kind of sums up the far left demographic for the Democratic Party. If something goes wrong, it's not our fault. That's the idea. And I think that the leaders of the Harris-Walz campaign embodied this well into this podcast.
I would say, I mean, look, I am not media hater by any measure. And I think that, you know, we women don't get far in life talking about double standards. So that's not the point. But I do think a narrative, 107 days, 2 weeks fucked up because of a hurricane, 2 weeks talking about how she didn't do interviews, which, you know, she was doing plenty, but we were doing in our own way. We had to, you know, be the nominee, had to find a running mate and do a rollout. I mean, there was all these things that you kind of want to factor in, but real people heard in some way that we were not going to have interviews, which was both not true and also so counter to any kind of standard that was put on Trump that I think that was a problem. And then on top of that, we would do an interview, and to Stephanie's point, the questions were small and processy and about like
dumb.
They were not informing a voter who was trying to listen to learn more or to understand.
It's always everyone else that's the problem, not Kamala Harris gaslighting the American people or Tim Walz running and kicking on stage. It wasn't the lack of policy or how they would solve the issues that we have. It's us that's the problem. But she's still the VP though, right? She still has some time in place for the solutions that she promised on the trail, but she's not going to do that, and it might be better that she doesn't. Although what's being done might not be better. It's now come to our attention that the current administration may be fast-tracking World War III. Now, I covered this in a previous video, guys, where President Joe Biden gave Ukraine the permission to use long-range missiles against Russia. You best watch that one next because things are getting serious real fast. Now, as always, appreciate you guys being here. Thanks so much for hitting the like button and subscribing. We'll see you guys next time.